Welcome. We had a Minorities and Mental Health. I'm Persia Nicole, and this time it's all about letting you know you're never alone. And tonight, I'm definitely not alone. We have some amazing panelists joining us, and I have amazing hosts. What up, Steph Lover?
What's going on, P? How you doing, everybody? Steph Lover, how you doing? I'm back on Magic 95.9 and happy to join the conversation, especially after 2 years of talking to the walls.
I know, right? That's what makes it so crazy. We've been like talking to the walls, and like for us being radio personalities, we're used to just talking to a mic, but it made it really more real during the pandemic, right?
Yes, it was like crazy. Like in the beginning, I'm thinking, a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months. And then I remember, one day I heard Fauci say 2023, and this was like 2020. And I'm like, that sounds like a long time. And it seems as if he's right on point as far as, things getting back to somewhat some normalcy.
Absolutely. So let's kick it off. Let's bring in a guest. Go ahead, Steph.
Okay, we're going to start with Elena Bolden from Springboard Community Services.
Hey,
welcome,
Elena. Where you at, girl?
Hello, ladies.
How you doing, sis? How's it going?
Doing good. Thank you so much for having me.
No doubt. Where are you coming from? Where are you at currently?
I'm here in Ellicott City right now, actually. So just sped home from Baltimore City in my office at Springboard, and now I'm home trying to relax a little bit, spend some time with you all this evening.
It's gonna be good.
We appreciate the time. We got another guest coming to join us too, Persia.
Yeah, Quentin from 211 Maryland. Hey, Quentin.
Hello, good evening. Good evening, ladies. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
We got Q&A. Did y'all peep that?
That was a good one.
Let's talk a little bit about what you all do. Elena, if you want to go first.
Absolutely. So I am representing Springboard Community Services, formerly Family and Children's Services of Central Maryland. I am currently the interim Deputy Chief Program Officer, as well as the Director of Compliance, Quality, and Training at the agency. We are a community-based human services agency that is embedded in the communities throughout Central Maryland. We have a location in Baltimore City, in Carroll County, Howard County, and Harford County. We also serve Baltimore County and Anne Arundel County as well. We offer a myriad of services from counseling, case management, and housing. Much of our work is focused on victims of crime. So that's domestic violence, that is family violence, that's anyone else who's been victimized in some way, shape, or form. So we are consistently reaching out to the community, forming community partnerships, doing outreach so that we can offer some semblance of support, some hope, and to continue to build resilience in our communities.
Q, you got something to follow up on after that.
I don't know if I can top that one.
Come on, jump on in here. Tell us a little bit about 211 Maryland.
Yeah, so Quentin asked you with 211 Maryland. So, my role with the organization is President and CEO of 211 Maryland. And so we are a nonprofit, a statewide entity. We have a 600 call center network. And so we offer this easy 3-digit number that anyone throughout the state can call in Baltimore City, anywhere, just dial 211, and they are connected to one of these local call centers. And so they can call and get help for, basically anything. I need food, I need employment, I just need help, or I don't know what I need. And they can dial, just simply dial 211, and we'll connect them with someone that can connect them with any resource they might need.
Wow, I love it. And as you're watching this tonight, wherever it is on Magic 92Q, Facebook page, YouTube, you guys can add in right now in the chat a question you might have as we have a conversation. We'll pop it up and get it answered for you. I like to start this off with a health check. And I think that's for all of us because throughout this whole pandemic, and I know you do health checks as well, and we're at 211, but something that we can all relate to one another and just check on one another and see how we're doing. Quentin, let's start with you. Like throughout this pandemic, how have you been? If you've been through some struggles, how did you get through it?
I think for the most part, probably tired. I think, just tired of, things not being normal, whatever that means now. Right. I think for me, it's been good with family and friends, being able to reconnect in some way, to re-engage with folks. But I think it's been a struggle, right? It's been a struggle, for being isolated for so long and then trying to get reacclimated to the things that you wanted to do or tried to do, especially getting kids back involved in activities. And so I think for me, it was a struggle in the beginning, just trying to get back on track and just trying to stay engaged with folks. But, it was good to have, a good network of friends and family, co-workers, just to stay connected. But, it was struggling a little bit in the beginning.
Yeah, we had to get creative, honey.
Absolutely.
Elena.
I think you took the words right out of my mouth. It forced us to be creative, to be able to still maintain those social connections without that physical contact that we would use, that we're used to having. But it was challenging for me as well, trying to maintain some sense of normalcy. Really being very close to my 13-year-old daughter. It's just the two of us here. So we got to know each other a lot more during the pandemic.
I got a 14-year-old.
And you know what that's like. So definitely some connection there. And I actually started Springboard during the pandemic. Prior to that, my job had gone from work from home, and Springboard propelled me back out into the world, back out into the office, and learning new things in the midst of a pandemic and learning a lot of new people in the midst of a pandemic. So, it was a challenge. Some trips got canceled. So, that was probably the biggest blow to my heart. But I'm just blessed, and I'm super thankful that my family remained healthy and safe. That I did not have to be the one to experience a significant loss. So I guess all in all, there is a silver lining to everything. And that's my silver lining, that I have all the people here with me that I started the pandemic with.
Wow.
And it's the blessing right there, because a lot of people did it and don't.
That's right.
Yeah, I have to jump in because early on in the pandemic, I lost my aunt, my dad's younger sister. And it was really weird because the first word we got, as you know, in the beginning, and I don't know if that's still true now, that, relatives couldn't go into the hospital. Yeah. So literally my cousin dropped off, her mother, and we didn't see her anymore. I mean, we were keep getting updates with her cell phone, but it was so hectic in the very beginning. Like even her trying to get her cell phone charged was a challenge in the hospital because she was sick. So who do you ask? The nurses are not going to just stop to help charge your phone, which sounds so simple. But long and short of it, I would say the first 3 months of COVID, we lost my aunt. And, the domino effect was crazy because, only 10 people were allowed to go to the funeral procession, like things of that nature that kind of really messed with me because I had just seen this lady, a few months prior, and she was in relatively good health. So I think for me, and I only have one aunt left. So it was really, it put a lot of things into perspective as far as, how quickly things turned. And for me, how to adjust. My mom wound up coming down here, staying with me for like 5 months. So you said you were with just your teenager. I was with my mom and a teenager and 2 cats. You know what I mean? My mom brought her cat. So it was a lot going on, so I was the only one leaving the house. So in a small way, that was, my sense of normalcy is to get out, just get some air, go into the store. It was like, I felt like such a, but I was the one that was on the front line. I had to do it. My mom's at risk. I didn't want my daughter to go anywhere. It was super challenging. And I think for me, what helped me a lot is like just finding stuff to do. I started a business. I started getting more back into fitness. I started cooking more. I could chef it up now a little bit, little something, a little better than before. Just a little better than before.
I'm going to be the judge of that.
All right, I got you. It was just little stuff like that. Like I had to keep my mind, occupied because, if it went idle for me, that spelled trouble.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people went through that, and that's what really caused a lot of the mental issues that we're now dealing with, because it was so much, from having family members in a hospital, you can't go see them. So now you're stuck in your head, what's going on with them? When can I see them? When are they going to get out? Like, you're freaking yourself out, people losing their jobs, kids being home from school. What has been some of the biggest issues that has caused a lack of maybe mental stability during the pandemic? Elena, what would you say?
I think a lot of it is just the fear of the unknown. We were kind of thrown into this space of helplessness, perceived helplessness, of not knowing what's going to happen next, of being afraid that if I go outside, I'm going to get COVID. We're hearing all these stories that the media is playing up. So I think that a lot of people probably became the worst version of themselves during COVID because of so much anxiety. Because of so much fear of what was going to happen. And even, it's like you go out in the world, because at one point it was you go out in the groups, you get COVID, but then there were some people who never left the house that got COVID.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I am not safe no matter what I do. So that constant fear, that anticipation, the anxiety, I think that that's really where a lot of that came from. And you turn to maybe someone who's supportive to you, and that person who you're used to getting those pep talks from, that encouragement from, they're just as scared as you are. And so you're kind of bonding over that fear that you were experiencing, and there really is no answer because we don't know what's happening. And we're in 2022 now, and it seems like things are dying off, but we never know when it can peak again. So it really is a frightening situation. And so, definitely the anxiety, definitely the depression associated with not being able to be an active participant in your normal routine, not being able to thrive with people around you, because some people need that energy from other people in order to thrive. And so if you're isolated to your home, especially if you are someone who lives alone, and you've got no one there with you. And if you do bring someone in, then you're constantly thinking about, well, what do they need to wear their mask? What do I have to do? How do I protect it? You Lysol everything down. We had the people that were going to the grocery store and they were wearing their gloves, and they were using those same gloves to drive the car. Right. So we just got into this situation where everything is different. I can't be around my family. I think, Steph, the situation that you just described with your aunt clearly demonstrates that lack of power and control over situations that we normally have control over. Like not being able to say goodbye to the people that are closest to you, for those who lost loved ones. It was a hard time. So the anxiety, the depression, that fear, the FOMO, of course, that fear of missing out, that all these things, my life is passing me by and now I can't get out and do things. And then we had the other people that were like, well, I don't care. I'm just going to go do what I want to do. I'm going to go down to Florida. I'm going to be amongst all these people. I'm going to take my mask off. And the rest of us sitting back like,
Go ahead.
You know what? One thing I just want to add in, what was weird that I thought about a lot with my aunt was that how she felt. Like I was so concerned that she thought we maybe like abandoned her a little bit, because nobody was allowed in and we were fighting. We were on them doctors' necks, but it was chaotic. Like this was the New York, Cuomo, all of that, what was going on. This was all new. So everybody was kind of winging it. So Q, let me get you in here. What was your role like in the beginning of the pandemic? Like, how did you guys manage? Because I'm sure at some point it got to be an influx of calls, and I mean, nobody really had answers. So how did you guys manage that during the height of the pandemic?
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. And I think it was so much information everywhere, right? And we didn't know which information to trust, which information was true, and who you can trust. So, and with all of our centers, it was, as you said, it was phone overload. The calls were extremely. They went from maybe answering 1,000 calls per day to almost 10,000 calls per day. We partnered with the Maryland Department of Health, Behavioral Health Administration, and so in order to support the governor to become that sort of portal, that first point of contact for folks who may have had questions about, where can I go to get tested, or who do I listen to, if I have these symptoms, or what kind of symptoms do I need to look out for? And so we started off as that first point of contact where someone can just call us and we can provide that specific information. And so we work very closely with the Maryland Department of Health, continuously engage and get information so that we can provide information. We served as that sort of that rumor control, so that folks can know, okay, you can call us. We'll have that specific information from the Maryland Department of Health, from from individuals who are certified, that we can try and provide you some accurate information. Because as Elena mentioned, it's just information overload. And so, again, you didn't know who to trust. And so we attempted to serve as that sort of trusted source in the community to say, call 211. Well, we can sort of try to direct you in the right place to give you this information. We use texting a lot to really connect with folks because, again, everybody doesn't want to talk on the phone. And so we try to expand the technology and say, all right, here's a text number you can sign up to. We'll continuously provide information to you through text. But again, our call specialists were overwhelmed because, again, they're still facing those same fears with relatives, not being home and dealing with families and children home. So it was a lesson learned for all of us. Some centers had to switch to go virtual. Some were working in a building, and then we had to switch to go virtual to say, all right, now how do we change our whole phone systems to adapt, to ensure that folks can still reach us 24/7. And so, I think we all became creative, as you said, throughout this whole pandemic. But it was definitely a lesson learned for all of us. And so, we got through it. We're at this point we are now. But it was definitely, it was tough for those folks who were answering the calls, but also for folks who were calling us.
Yeah, I'm sure. And as you're chiming in again, I want to remind you can ask questions. We're going to pop it up here. Shout out to 211 and Springboard for this phenomenal event tonight. I want to make sure you're not alone. We have so many different resources. We're going to cover all of that. We're here to 8 p.m. So grab some popcorn, a nice drink, and hang out with us for a little bit. A PG drink, juice or something like that, water, whatever you like. Elena, the mission over at Springboard is all about, transforming the lives of children and adults by providing opportunities to build self-confidence, resilience, and hope. Let's dig inside those opportunities and what they actually look like.
So some people come to us because they need help with getting an identification card. Some people come to us because they're homeless and they don't know where they're going to go. And then we have some people that come to us who are just anxious and depressed and need some support from the counseling side. We have a medication management provider. So our programs have so many different legs. We've got so many different angles from which we provide care. In our Baltimore City office, we have a foster grandparents program where we have seniors with a certain income requirement that come in and they volunteer in the school system and they volunteer in Head Start and daycare programs. So we're serving everyone in the community. We are really working towards enhancing our programs for youth in the Baltimore City office. We will be opening a youth resource center soon. So that site is going to it currently serves as a navigation site for homeless youth. So they can walk into our program on certain days. We have appointment hours on certain days where they can come in. They can be entered into the coordinated access system to find shelter and housing that's appropriate for them. Our Carroll County office we are the comprehensive domestic violence service providers in that area. So we have outpatient services, but we also have a domestic violence safe house there in that county. We have a medical adult daycare center in Carroll County. In our Harford County office, we have a LEAD program, which is law enforcement assisted diversion. So we're working with the Bel Air Police Department there to try and divert addicts, substance users who would otherwise be charged with crimes. They can be diverted into our case management services in order to, rebuild, regain some stability, and hopefully recover in a healthy, supportive fashion. Our Howard County office offers eviction prevention and utility assistance. We're embedded in the Columbia community, and we are also stationed at the Multi-Service Center out in Laurel. So we're all over the place. We really aim to anticipate the need and meet the needs of the clients that we serve. And we do it all from a trauma-focused lens. We know that it's so important to not think that something is wrong with someone, but rather look at it through the lens of what has happened to you. Because so many people have experienced things that have shaped the person that they are today. And so we aim to look for what that is and see where we can jump in to support and to help them make it through whatever challenges they're faced with.
Elena, I just want to build on that real quick because, you know, me and you both had teenagers. I don't know about you, Q. But this month, February, is National Teen Dating Violence Awareness Prevention Month. I found that on your website, and I found that so interesting because I didn't even know that was kind of a thing. What kind of services, you know, do you guys extend to teenagers? Like, how would they even, you know, go about identifying, even if it's not happening to them, that it's happening to a friend? And, you know, what would they do about it? That was just so interesting to me. I just wanted to bring that up.
And you know what? It's important for people to recognize that this doesn't start in adulthood. A lot of this happens because of learned behaviors that they saw as children, and they go on to manifest those same behaviors as adults. But if we can get in at the point of teenhood, and try and proactively provide some education, then we'll do that. So we work with a lot of youth in our counseling programs. Like I said, we work with youth in our Baltimore City office, but we once did a program called Healthy Relationships, where we were going into the school system and holding groups and teaching youth about dating violence and the signs that they need to know. I think there are so many people who don't realize what abuse actually looks like, that it just has to be someone hitting you. But we know that that's not the case. There are so many other things. Many other things, that mental abuse, that verbal abuse, that psychological abuse. I know it's become so much of a trend, but that whole concept of gaslighting, it's a real thing. I know we tend to assign it in so many different ways, but it is absolutely a real thing. And so it is just really about being able to identify those signs and having the support and knowing what to do when you experience those signs, and to kind of cut it off as soon as you see it happening. But awareness and education is so important. And so, again, when I mentioned we are out in the community, we really are out in the community. Our Carroll County office is partnering with a nonprofit organization that serves youth, really just to provide that education. And then, you know, if they say, that sounds familiar to me, or I might want to get a little bit of help with that, I might want to talk to somebody, then that's when they can come in, they can enroll in our counseling services, then we can be an additional, you know, beacon in their lives.
I love that. And just like Springboard 211 has services, a lot of them, like legal services, and you can choose them right when you go to your website. So you can choose whatever services you need, click on them, you can figure out what type of help you can get. Quentin, let's talk about the services that 211 Maryland provides.
Yeah, so our role is to serve as that connector. And so, like all those great services that Elena mentioned, if someone dials 211, you know, we have folks that will answer the phone, have an empathetic conversation with them. They'll listen, right? So it's free, it's confidential, and they can basically call and say, you know, here's everything that's going on. And so individuals who are answering the phone, they either, you know, most of them have a bachelor's or master's levels degree in social work, human services. They go through an extensive training. And so that training just helps them to be, again, really a good listener, to really identify, okay, you know, I'm hearing this is what you're saying. And so here's some resources in your community. And so we really try to help individuals to figure out that maze of, you know, who's providing what service, how do I connect to that service, am I eligible, how do I connect? And so we provide all that basic information, say, okay, based on what you're telling us, here's the services that you are eligible for. And so we can provide that information based upon where they live, where their zip code is, and say, okay, you know, here's where you need to go to get the services that you need. You know, there's some follow-up that's provided just to make sure the individual was able to contact that particular service, or, you know, if they need access to other resources. But again, our goal is that, you know, you got these 3-digit easy numbers to remember, dial 211, you know, we'll connect you to the service that you need. We'll make sure you get to Elena, you know, if your young adult is having some trouble or there's health stuff going on. But, you know, it's really just, you know, don't worry about, you know, what the need is. Just call us and we'll help you try to figure that out.
But when it comes to like legal services, like, you know, once somebody calls you to say, hey, I'm having some issues, what type of legal services do you actually provide before they be calling you for everything? Like, you know, what exactly legal services.
Right. And so those legal services could be, I need some help to understand, I'm getting forced to be evicted, or I'm going through a foreclosure. I'm having tax issues. I'm having some issues with a particular case, a civil case, a criminal case. And so we can help them sort of understand, okay, here are the legal services that are available for you in your community. Here's some free services. Here's some services that are based on, a particular income that you might have. And so our job is that we have this resource database of over 9,000 resources in it. That's broken down by community, it's broken down by jurisdiction. And so basically it's depending upon what the individual needs. You tell us what's going on, they'll be able to identify, okay, based on what you're telling me, here's where I can connect you. And so those legal resources, again, could be from anything from tax support to, legal assistance. Somebody gave me a bad car, I got a lemon, I don't know what to do with it. Or, I just need some basic legal advice. And so, some folks on the other end that can provide some legal support and connection to those legal services.
Look at us connecting dots around here. We have the two people that can help you with anything. At this point, you don't need to go nowhere else. 211 is Springboard.
That's all. Y'all sure not Avengers or something like that? I'm just, just let us know.
Definitely.
But, yeah, Elena, real quick, I just want to know, do any of you guys' services require having medical coverage, or are all or some of these services, paid for? Are they grants? I mean, what? I don't want people to think that, like Persia just said, you can come here and get anything. But do you need medical coverage? And if not, I'm sure you guys can help them get some.
Absolutely. So for our counseling and our medication management services, we do accept insurance. For those who come to us without insurance, we do connect them with our case managers to try and help them to get medical coverage. Like I mentioned, we work with a lot of victims of crime. So we do have some grant funding available to kind of help people who are uninsured in that capacity that would meet some certain victimization requirements. But we do operate, our revenue is driven by insurance and grants. So we do accept insurance for our counseling, our medication management programs. And then for our case management services, you come in, you receive care. There is no cost for that.
That's amazing. So if they don't have it, at least they can start the process of getting some.
Yes, we're going to make it happen one way or the other. We recognize that there's a need. And so we certainly want to help people to be connected with insurance and other entitlements so that they can be able to move forward, because that's a huge part of gaining stability, is just being able to have those basic things, medical coverage, food, shelter. All of those things are essential to the stability of a person. And so that's a need that we try and serve.
Yeah,
I want to ask about the age limit, because if somebody calls you and they're under 18, but they are being abused by a parent, is there an age limit to calls? Will you accept somebody who is 15 and they're calling you, letting you know that they've been abused by a parent, or how does that go?
So that can be a little bit tricky. Someone 16 and over can consent to treatment on their own. For people who are under 15, their parent would need to sign them in. Now, the state of Maryland has recently passed new laws that said the age of consent can change to 12 in certain exceptional situations.
Wow.
So in that case, we would probably consider it, although it's a tightrope that we walk on, trying to make sure that everyone, because parents still have parental rights, we could certainly contact CPS, we would file the report, we have that obligation as mandated reporters, but for people under 16, we would typically require parental consent.
Okay. Yeah, just wondering, because you'll get people who will call, it'll be a child, after I tell my son to stop playing Fortnite, that right there, child, it's the end of the world. Different levels to this, and I really actually want you to break down those levels, because you talked a little bit about abuse, if it's not mental abuse or physical abuse, whatever it may be. But let's talk about some other things, like how do you know you're being abused? How do you know you are depressed? How do you know a family member is depressed? What are some signs that we need to look forward to?
So, there's so many different signs associated with all the things that you just said, but one thing that I would say above all is your body tells you when something is not right. Mm-hmm. We have to trust our bodies, our intuition, our gut. There are so many different connections in our bodies that let us know that things just don't feel right. Even, you know, on a biological level, thinking about that brain gut connection, that when you're feeling anxious, you may feel it in your stomach, you may feel nauseous, or you may have an upset stomach. So one, you have to just listen to your body. When you notice that you're not doing the things that you used to do, that the motivation isn't there anymore, and you cannot really figure out what the catalyst for that is, that's a sign. When you know that you don't really want to be around people like you used to, that's a sign. When you're noticing that you can be a little more irritable, you might snap at people and you don't really have a real reason for doing that, that's a sign. When you know that, you know, things just don't feel right, like you're a little more tentative about doing things, you don't really want to go out anymore, things that you used to enjoy just don't feel the same anymore, that's a huge, huge sign. When you catch yourself crying out of nowhere, that's a sign. But when we think about abuse, abuse is all about that whole concept of power and control, right? When you feel like somebody is taking away or trying to take away your power and your control, you should start having those, you know, those beams going up saying, maybe something here is not quite right. Because like I said, it doesn't have to be just that hitting or that pushing or that fighting. It could be occasional insults. It could be this mind game of, oh, those people that you love the most don't really care about you. That kind of sneaking in and being clever and creating that isolation in relationships. I will say that Google is always an excellent resource and there's so much information out there. But if that's not your thing, call us. Call Quentin at 211. Just reach out. Sometimes making that first phone call is really challenging, but that's the one step that you need to take in order to get help. And you'll be greeted with someone who really wants to care about you. And I'm speaking for Springboard, but I know the same for 211. You just have to make that first step. You really do. And I know that, you know, this is a panel about minorities and mental health specifically. And I know it's specifically difficult for us. That we come from a system where that doesn't really want to help us, you know? So I get it. I really do. And so one thing I would say is there are a lot of practitioners out here that look like us now. And for anyone who is listening to me that is thinking about becoming one, do it because you are needed. It is necessary. We need to be represented in this field because there are things that we experience that we are best equipped to handle. The concept of racial trauma and things like that, those things, you know, you can go to classes about it, you can learn about it, you can be an ally, but will you really be able to understand it fully if you have not experienced it yourself? If you don't watch things on TV like George Floyd and all these protests, if you don't watch those kinds of things and you don't feel it in your gut because you know that a relative of yours, that could be somebody that you love on the ground. So it's necessary for us to be represented in this. And so reach out. Look, there's a website called Therapy for Black Girls. There's a Therapy for Black Men. There's a Clinicians of Color website where you can go and find a directory. Just reach out. Take that first step.
Yeah, and I think also, you know, for men and Black men, I think that, you know, sometimes we miss those signs. We might ignore them, or, you know, we may just see them as a sign of weakness, right? But I think, you know, it's important for us to, as you say, you know, take that step to make those calls, but recognize that, you know, it's not weakness, it's more strength in us than seeking that help, right? And sort of engaging with other men about what we're feeling, what we're dealing with. But I think, you know, especially for us, a lot of times we miss it or ignore it or act like it's not there. Which is the wrong thing to do. And so, you know, like said, the help is there.
Yeah, they always trying to tell young Black men, toughen up, don't cry, don't be soft. And, you know, honestly, I have a lot of friends that, you know, I grew up in the projects that they have PTSD. And people find that hard to believe, you know, non-white doctors, psychologists, whoever, because they're like, oh, you've never been to war? Really? you know,
I was in war this morning. Like it's a different type of war.
Yeah,
They don't.
that's what I'm trying to say. So
yeah.
I agree with you, Alana, that they don't understand the PTSD of growing up in the projects, of that uncertainty, that paranoia, that all of that trauma, your friends, losing friends left and right. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need somebody that can relate. It's not always, you know, somebody of color, but you need somebody that can relate. We need more white allies, as they say, not only on the front lines, but in, you know, in the medical field as well, that they can understand that, hey, this is real. Like, this guy is, you know, not just angry or a nuisance. Like, there's something deeper under these tattoos, believe it. You know what I'm saying? He's definitely masking something. But Q, I want to ask you, on that note, what are some of the programs or that you can point people in the direction to that might call and say, hey, I'm looking to, you know, get, you know, in a different direction. I need something to, you know, help me move on from, you know, this negative situation that I might be in, and just give me a little bit of light. Are there programs, or do you guys have like building blocks to help people like get back on the right track, or get out of, you know, like you said, that funk that they might be during this pandemic that might have accumulated even to the strongest people needed sometimes?
Yeah, we do, absolutely. And so we have this unique program that is really 2-on-1 in Press One, right? And so that's a partnership with behavioral health administrations that, you know, when you dial, if it connects you directly to our crisis specialist, right? And so you can dial 2-on-1 for anything like legal, I need food, I need employment. But if you dial 2-on-1 and you press 1, that's saying, you know, I need some help right away. And so that pressing 1 connects you to one of our specialized crisis centers that's available 24/7. And so these are individuals who are trained and certified in suicide prevention, crisis support, and mental health needs. And basically what they do is, you know, they are able to talk to you about that stressful situation. And so it could be you just need somebody to talk to, or you really don't know what's going on, you just don't feel right. And so these individuals are able to have an empathetic conversation, able to listen, connect you with the needed emergency services in the community, because that might be a mobile crisis team. And so, you know, maybe someone needs to come to the house right away because you feel like you're a danger to yourself or to someone else. So they can make that connection. If it's connecting to, you know, a local emergency room, again, they can make that particular connection to you. But these are folks who are trained that when you press 1, that you'll directly connect to them right away to say, you know, I'm just not feeling right. I'm not sure what's going on. And so they're able to take you through a process to one, try to calm the situation down, but really connect you immediately to where you need to go. We, you know, because, you know, suicide has been prevalent, you know, especially during COVID. We were lucky last year to work with several legislators to create a new program called 2-on-1 Health Check. And so what that program is in honor of Thomas Raskin, Jamie Raskin's son, who's our congressman, whose son committed suicide last holidays. And so again, this was someone who you know, had a great family, who you know was going to a great school and had a support system, but again was just struggling with his mental health. And so what this 2-on-1 Health Check program does is that it allows someone to call 2-on-1 to sign up for the program, and it provides them a weekly check-in call from one of our crisis specialists or our behavioral health specialists. So again, it's free, it's confidential. Someone can get a weekly call at a time that you choose. So they can call and say, hey, I want to call at 6 p.m. every Monday for someone just to check in. And so there's a crisis specialist that will call you at 6 o'clock every Monday, say, hey, how you doing? You know, how was things today? Is there anything that I can connect you with? If everything's good, we'll call you back next week. And so, you know, you can stay with this as long as you want, or you can say, you know, in 30 days, I'm fine, I'm good to go, but I'll call you back if I need you. And so again, it's a free program that's available for anyone, whether you have insurance or not, but just connects you to someone who's trained that will just check in on you.
I love that, because you have that accountability partner. Like if you don't have that in a friend or a family member, like 2-on-1 or Springboard can become your new family member, somebody who really can kind of help you in that moment, especially that moment if you need it right then and there, because you know, somebody might not pick up the phone. Like, you know, my sisters have called me before, they've been going through things and I'm like tired, like, all right, I'll call them back later. But they needed me in that moment and I wasn't available in that moment. So, you know, you could call the 2-on-1 to get that help. And I really do hope as you're listening, you're taking notes. I have my phone out because I wrote down the therapy for Black women. Is that what it was?
For Black girls.
That one.
Yes. Okay. So let me fix it on my phone right now because I didn't put women in. But yeah, I hope that you are taking notes and really are gaining a lot from this, because even if you're not going through domestic violence or depression, or if it's with your child or whoever, you know somebody who is going through this. So pass it along your notes to your coworkers or whatever it is, because a lot of people's coworkers are still working from home. And that alone is depressing. I mean, being at home in the same area, you're eating a lot, because I know when I was doing my show from home, I don't know how many Twinkies I done had in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Because you're bored, or you feel like you're hungry, but you're not hungry. So, it just really becomes depressing.
It's not like that human connection, P. That human connection. As much as people be like, "Oh, I want to be left alone," but for how long do you really want to be left alone?
Don't leave me alone.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot. But I think that now conversations like this, and I think this is something good that has come out of the pandemic, because we really weren't doing health checks on one another.
No.
This has really health has become a really big thing now. It's like the cool thing to do, that everybody wants to check up on one another. But this is the right thing to do. It's become the cool, right thing to do. And conversations like this, virtual, people can access this right from home. You don't have to even have, whatever cable or whatever. You can just chime right in on Facebook. You're on it all day long and get something amazing like this. Like, this is what I look forward to, conversations with our minorities and mental health. So I'm just excited for more. And I'm thankful for this conversation tonight, because Cheryl, this note's about to look even better. Let me change the girls, not women, while I'm thinking about this now.
Right. I think one thing is that, mentioned, I know we said call, but I think one of the unique things that we've done is that, we've created a lot of stuff that you can use just by text. Because, especially for our younger folks, our younger generation. So we have a couple of different texting programs that our younger population can use. Because again, we realize everyone doesn't want to call. And so, if someone just wants to text us, right, they can just text us. They can text their zip code to 898-211. They'll still engage to a live specialist, right? They'll still engage with someone who can still, chat or text with them right through their phone. So it's just like having, a case manager or crisis specialist in your cell phone for those who may not just want to talk. So we have several texting programs for young adults where they can get weekly updates, just about mental health and, what does mental health mean? And what are some resources for individuals who are 18 and younger? So, all these different programs, again, we offer by text or phone. You got to make sure that we can connect to the generation for folks who are trying to reach us.
You ain't never lie, because my daughter, since even before the pandemic, I would say, but right now, that's all she does is text. I mean, she's upstairs.
That's right in the same room, right? You can be in the same room.
Yeah. I mean, that's just their way. I think it's important too to, meet people where they are. If they're comfortable texting, then, let them text. Some people don't want to call. They don't want to show that vulnerability to a stranger, until they get that level of comfort with them. Especially Black people, it's hard to be opening up. You don't want nobody, pulling the rug from. We're so paranoid, I think, about, somebody pulling the rug from under our eyes or exposing, everybody keeps it really close to the vest. And I think that's important, that the only way you're going to get some help is if you open up just a little bit, or if you ask for some help. I think that's the biggest thing. Sometimes it's just taking that first step, like the programs you guys are talking about. A lot of people probably didn't even know that was possible. You're getting evicted and you're like, what? I can call somebody and they could help me, but my mom used to say, closed mouths don't get fed. And
that's right. Yeah. And I think that's what it is, really just sharing information, because again, you might not need it. But you never know.
It wasn't my mama, but she said something. No.
Right, but just sharing it. And one of the other things I know, Elena's Springboard does a great job with this, but supporting our older adults. And so we also have, again, programs that support our older adults, whether it's through texting. We have a texting program for our older adults, even just calling. And so through our Maryland Department of Aging. And so I think that's also important to make sure that our older adults have somewhere to call, contact, and that we're checking up on them. Because, again, I think they also, suffer as well from the isolation and not being connected. And, though as well, what resources are available for them. And so, I think, with Springboard and what we do, offer those resources for those as well.
Absolutely.
I want to talk about, were you going to say something, Elena?
Well, I was actually going to pick up on something that Steph said about meeting people where they are, just because everyone is not always ready for all the therapy entails. So I'm really excited to hear about the texting and the health check options at 211, because sometimes it really is just baby steps.
Yeah.
It's being able to make that first contact, and the first contact doesn't have to be a 60-minute therapy session where you're bearing your soul, because that's what people think is happening, right? And then I'm telling you my whole life story, but that doesn't always have to be the case. And so sometimes it's that people are paranoid, like Steph mentioned, but there's a lot of work involved with going to therapy. Therapy requires,
this level years.
Absolutely. This level of vulnerability that you have with the therapist, but also with yourself, that you have to really reflect on who you are, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it takes some time for you to get to a place where you're really ready to drill down and find out who you really are and why you do the things that you do. And so having that option of being able to have these check-ins, being able to text, having that availability of anonymity, so that, you know, even if you know that you need to reach out, that nobody knows exactly who you are. Those are the baby steps that you need. And eventually maybe that person will flow into getting some, you know, standard counseling services. But in the meantime, that's a great option for people who aren't really certain that they want to delve into the world of therapy.
Right.
Yeah. And as we're having this conversation again, we have like less than 15 minutes left. But if you do have a question, you can type it in the chat, and we will pop it up on the screen for Elena or Quentin to answer for you before we get out of here. But I do want to talk about like privacy, right? Because if somebody comes to you and they have an issue, let's really talk about that, making sure that, you know, maybe their significant other won't find out, or their parent won't find out, or whatever it may be. How is that privacy like?
So with us, you know, someone can call, you know, again, each call is free and confidential. So no one has to provide anything but a zip code of, you know, where they need a resource at. You know, we'll ask for some identifying information just to make sure that they are provided what they need. But if someone says, you know, hey, I don't want to give this to you, I don't trust you, we really provide them what they need. Again, we work with a lot of individuals who may be undocumented, or again, who just may be afraid that, you know, if I tell you this information, you know, I got a child who you may think I'm being abused, and they're going to come take my child away. And so again, you know, I think it's just really, you know, making the call. But again, anyone who contacts us, that information is confidential. You know, we don't require it. We don't ask. We just want to provide the particular service and resource for you.
Privacy is key. I mean, seriously, especially like you said, if you're in a mental crisis, you know, the last thing you want is people to judge that, you know, you're trying to get a handle on the situation. And I think that's so important just to have that resource there. You guys are providing like such a resource that is insurmountable in a sense, because some people, especially during the pandemic, I remember in the beginning, we were all like really talking on the thread, and then it got less and less. And it was like, I could see me and my friends kind of drifting because it was not much to talk about. We were all kind of like, you know, you just waited. You know, it was like one of those things where it's like, okay, what now? You know,
what you do in the living room today?
Right. Exactly. So it got to be, you know, to that place. And again, me having a 14-year-old, this was her freshman year in high school, you know? And literally she hadn't walked into a school since the middle of 7th grade. So it was like a total, you know, what do we do? What was it safe? This and that. And, you know, I'm just grateful that I had, you know, people to talk to. But, you know, had I known about 211 or you, Elena, listen, y'all, I might have been blowing y'all up, because sometimes you just need an unbiased voice to, you know, help you get through. And I think the 211 service is amazing, and what you guys are doing and providing.
Yeah, I think, you know, especially for the young people, and you know, as Elena said, you know, making sure those services are accessible for our young adults, that they have access to them. Because again, you know, they you know, we have some who are just going to school and been wearing a mask, you know, ever since they've been in school, or, you know, transition to high school, you know, and you know, some of these things, and so really getting acclimated for those who are just joining high school that have been, home for the last year or so, and ensure that, they're dealing with those mental health things that, may not be addressed. And so I think it's important as we, check on the adults that, we still got to check on, our children, young adults, and just asking those questions. Because, kids don't talk. Right? You say, how you doing? And they'll just say, nothing.
Fine. But how do you have that conversation though? Like, how do you even kickstart a conversation for someone who has a teenager like Steph or Elena? Like, you know what I mean? I have a 7-year-old son, and even with him, he's been very emotional. I could tell switching things when he was home, doing school. I can see the big change. How do you have the conversation with them and our culture and our community, something we're normally not used to doing? How do you kickstart that? Like, what would you say?
I think we have to be mindful that sometimes things that look like behavior problems are a symptom of stress. They're a symptom of anxiety. They're a symptom of, I don't like what's happening to me right now. And so I think we have to check ourselves as parents first to say, wait a minute, stop. There is probably a reason for why they're behaving this way. And then once we've done that, try and have an open and honest conversation with your child. Now, they may not initially want to say anything. What I do know, though, is teenagers talk about mental health a lot, more than probably ever, that because we're now working towards eliminating the stigma on mental health, that being able to talk about things like depression and anxiety, even things more significant like cutting behaviors, they will talk about that amongst their friends. And so if you don't get that kind of response from them initially when you ask, be consistent, continue to ask about them. You may even, make a comment about, well, I noticed that you were doing things a little bit different, or maybe you were a little snappy, but we really do have to be patient with our kids. And, I'm saying this while also recognizing that I need to be a little more patient with mine as well. Right. But in the moment, it's tough. But I think a lot of it is we really as parents have to just take a break, take a pause before we handle this, and recognize that there are so many things that they're having to deal with when they go to school, so many things that they see on social media, that they hear from their friends. There's so much more exposure in the world right now that they have access to. And so they're adolescent and prepubescent brains, they can't process all of that. They don't really know how to make sense of everything that's happening around them. So I think it really has a lot to do with what we do as parents, that we have to make sure that they understand that the changes that they're going through are normal and that we can be there to support them through those changes.
True. I was saying, also helping them understand language, right? Because sometimes they may not be able to articulate how they're feeling. Right. And just, those new words of, what is mental health? What is mental wellness? But just really educating them about these words and terms so they can articulate, okay, I'm feeling like this because this is what it particularly means. Because again, sometimes we try to talk to them in our language. They have a whole nother language that they talk amongst themselves. And so, really, understanding, having that common language that we can all understand for each other.
And what's real is like, I noticed with my daughter, like, she's very internal. She'll, and I could ask her 100 times, but like you said, it's behavioral stuff, her eating habits, her sleeping habits. I know she missed out. Like some of all of our, I would say, developmental, who I turned into as a person started in high school from those experiences. And a whole chunk is missing. So what I'm concerned about is 10 years from now, how a lot of these kids are going to deal with this as it starts to seep out, and I think this is a long process. Like we're going to see the effects of the pandemic and mental health on this generation in particular for many generations to come, because this has never happened, a worldwide pandemic, like in our whole lifetime. Nobody ever thought that this was going to happen. So, programs like you guys have are essential, and we have to support it, and we have to keep talking about it, and, getting people to, use them and utilize them, because that's what they're here for. Because that's what I'm really concerned about. Like 10 years from now, like, I didn't have a high school. You know, I didn't have a, you know, I didn't have a
prom. Yeah.
You know, I didn't have a prom. You know, that kind of stuff. Because think about, I mean, last year I did a graduation outside in the parking lot because they didn't have a graduation, but these parents were determined, and I emceed a graduation in the parking lot just for them to have that experience. You know, it was beautiful, but it was kind of sad and somber at the same time. So I hope, you know, these kids utilize some of you guys' programs, and you know, they're better for it because they will be.
Yeah, and I just want to mention, you know, there is, for anyone that do have young adults, you know, there is a, you know, a texting program that they can utilize. So we have this program called MD Young Minds, and so, you know, individuals can just text MD Young Minds to 898-211, and so then what that does, you know, the young people, they'll get, you know, weekly just check-ins and weekly, you know, information age appropriate for them that talks about mental health, that talks about resources and relationship building, you know, but it's geared towards our young adults. And so that's something that, you know, again, through text, they can engage, they can share it with their other friends, but it's just something that will continuously, you know, motivate them, but also just share new information, you know, information they can utilize to help themselves and someone else.
Yeah, we have so many different resources right here. We have like less than 4 minutes left. So let's, in addition to the MD Young Minds, let's talk about quitting with other things that 211 offers. Do a little recap so people who chimed in late know what website to go to, what resources they can get when they get there.
Yeah, so, you know, if anyone wants to find more information, they can check out the website. It's www.211md.org. So you can find, you know, any particular information about resources there. Call us, just dial 211. If you are in crisis, you know, dial 211 and press 1. You'll be immediately connected to a crisis specialist. That's 24/7, 365. I think also, you know, again, if you don't want to call, if you don't want to, you know, you can also text us. Just text your zip code to 898-211, and that way you can engage with someone either way. So, you know, there's no excuse. You can call us, text us. You can also chat on the website. All right. So any way you need the help, we got it.
Yeah, somebody sold you a lemon, they got you too.
That's
honey.
it.
All across the board, they got you covered.
Elena, same with you for Springboard Community Services. You want to give them a recap on some of the services you guys provide and mental health services as well?
Absolutely. So I know that in the beginning I mentioned case management, but I realize everyone doesn't know what case management is. So you would be assigned someone who can kind of help you to navigate those barriers that are stopping you from self-sufficiency, that are standing in the way of stability. And so, like I said, it can be as small as needing an identification card or a birth certificate to finding permanent housing, general counseling, trauma-focused counseling, medication management, housing services. You can learn more about our program at www.springboardmd.org, or you can call our central line at 410-669-9000.
Yep, and if you missed any of that, it's scrolling at the bottom. So if you're going to catch it, scroll back around, and you're going to be able to get it.
Learn more. You can make an appointment.
9,000.
You can make an appointment. You can learn more. Jump on the website. You can dial 211. I mean,
just dial 211. It'll get you everywhere. It'll get you to Elena anywhere you want to go.
That's better than 411. You get
what's the 411? What's the 211?
Yeah, what's the 411? 211
is 211. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. I learned a lot. Yeah. Thanks for to giving out all these great resources. I mean, I wrote some of this stuff down. It's amazing. The therapy for Black girls is definitely a go.
Yes.
And you know, I think you said what, MB Young Minds to text Q?
Is it MD or
MD? MD Young Minds.
MD, yes, thank you.
MD Young Minds. Text that, and also the health check. Yeah, don't forget the health check. Just again, if someone just wants someone to check in on them on a weekly basis, just, you know, call 211. We can get you scheduled, connected, you know, someone on a weekly basis for as long as you want, just to check in on you.
Amazing.
Absolutely. And Elena, really quick, also the age as far as kids, if they wanted to chime in, 16 years or older, but it could be some different changes with that as well, right?
We would still support young children and adolescents as well, just as long as they have parental consent. But 16 and older can come. They can initiate services on their own.
All right. So hopefully you got some good resources tonight. You can make sure, again, you contact Springboard or 211, text, call, go on the website. Just look at resources that you have tonight. As you're in the bed, you're on your phone anyway. Okay. Continue to be on your phone right now. And just look at everything you have. Help out a coworker or somebody at school or somebody in your family, somebody in your household or yourself. Because at the end of the day, we all we got in our culture, in our community. And if we don't support one another, nobody else is. All right. So I appreciate y'all tonight. And this has been phenomenal. And I hope we can have another one together, Minorities and Mental Health. And yeah.
Y'all be safe out there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.